we will just jump right to the slideshow. If you want to advance us to the first slide, Sheila. I think she rolls it actually better, more than, oh, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
So just a quick review. You've heard from all the department heads on all these general fund summary or general fund topics. Anyway, that's the second page of the paper you were just handed, this budget categories list. So all those categories are in our general fund. And all of those with the asterisk have already been discussed, presented by our department directors.
I can't hear you.
Well, I'm just talking away.
Hello, this is Hector from Flock. Are
Now
you?
I can hear you.
Hi, this is Hector from Flock.
Hector, can you hear me? Well, if you look at your agenda,
Anyway,
Flock is coming at the end of this budget, or the end of this presentation.
All right.
The end of the work session. As soon as we get through this, we'll have the Flock conversation. And I'm wondering if Sheila didn't hear me either.
I just started hearing you, Jeff, so I missed whatever you said at first.
Okay, so we've started on the slides. If you want to advance to the general fund summary 2024, the first slide.
Am I close?
I don't see anything. There's nothing sliding on on the screen.
Really?
Here. Yeah.
Okay, let me reload my,
Okay.
Does she have a second display? She might be sharing the wrong one.
I don't know.
They do
Could
that
be.
at least 5 times
There we
a
go.
day.
Like right there. Oh, there it is, right there.
okay, now you can see.
Now we can see it. Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Not that we couldn't, you have it in front of you, we could have described it that way too, it's pretty easy. But so tonight, my job is just to talk about the things up there that, and that don't have an asterisk. And I should say my job and Amy's job, because actually her treasurer under these budget categories should not have an asterisk because she hasn't talked about her role in the organization yet. So, okay, so next, let's talk about very quickly, the Board of Trustees. The operating expenditures for that line item are a little over $60,000. That's just a very slight increase over 2023. And you do have a line item in your board packet, I think, and you could take a look at that and see what those items are. But basically, it's just, workers' comp, dues, subscriptions, operating supplies. I think operating supplies might be the biggest of all those things, which wasn't really very big. And we all need to operate, so. So the next slide is the one that maybe we'll spend a little bit more time on, and that is contributions. Most of these are contributions that you've talked about, either directly with the organizations that have come and asked for that, or they've just been so ingrained, like, say, the Silt Historical Society, that it's just something we've done every year. The two, I think, that are maybe most conspicuous here is the chamber with a zero. Larry Stewart will be here for the work session on December 11th to have a presentation, and conversation with you about his organization and where SILT might fit in with that. So that'll be on December 11th. And then the Colorado River Valley Economic Development Partnership. You'll remember last time, oh, help me, her name just jumped right. Alicia was here and presented, Gressley, and she asked you for almost said $100,000. She asked for $10,000, which I have included in here, but obviously this is on paper. So if you wanted to have a conversation about that and adjust that one way or the other, we certainly do that. We can adjust any of these things, obviously. Most of the other things here, between Youth Zone, Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, and so forth, Garfield Clean Energy, those are Middle Colorado Water, AGNC. All of those are in the budget at what they were requesting.
How about detox?
Good question. Amy, where would that come out of? You're muted.
Oh, the Mine Springs.
The Mine
Detox.
Springs, yeah, detox.
Social settings for withdrawal management.
I don't see that in here. I don't know if last year we did that under special projects. Let me see.
Was it in police, public safety?
I don't think so. It would have been, I think it was because the board agreed to the contribution.
Good catch. I don't remember.
I guess while we're looking on that, my thing for the board is I would rather wait, give them anything until they're actually at operational center. Because I'm not sure they're ever gonna get going.
Yeah. What were they asking for? I forget.
I don't even remember how much it was at the last meeting.
I know we had pledged $2,000 once they were operational last year for this year, but I don't recall the dollar amount they were asking for at the last presentation that they did.
Did we pay that just out of the general contributions, Amy?
I don't think we've paid it.
We have paid it.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me look.
I looked that up and I thought we had paid it. I just can't tell you what it came out of.
Oh, so we did back in, let's see when the check was written. 10/25, so a month ago is when the check was written
And
for $2,000.
I was just going to say the minutes from our last meeting, when Hans and Tracy were here, they asked for another $2,000 contribution in 2024.
Yeah, that's what I've got back here in my notes, so.
That's what I was thinking. And
No.
before we paid that, we got an invoice from them. And before we paid it, we went back and looked at the minutes of when that decision was made. Because I recalled saying we weren't gonna, or hearing that we weren't gonna pay that until they were
They're
operational. But that's not what the minutes seem to reflect.
Yeah.
So we just went ahead and paid it
So would it,
this year.
yeah, sorry. Would it be under general contributions? Is that the? I'm looking at page 4 of the budget.
Right, that's, Amy, did you find where it came from? Because I would say that if that's the case and we want to fund them, we should create a separate line and put it in there. Because that one, we get little asks from time to time for,
It was paid out of the general contributions line item.
okay.
Okay.
Like the ski trail, I think is like $300, and
Yeah.
Coleridge High School asks us to be a booster, and we pay 400, I mean, little things like that that come out of that general line from time to time.
Oh, okay. I mean, I tend to agree with the mayor, but what says we get an invoice from them and somebody just pays it, even though we're waiting until they're operational?
Well, that's not what the minutes said, and I
Well,
don't have
I
those.
mean for this year.
Oh, for this year,
Yeah.
yeah. we
Yeah,
could-
for the
we could-
upcoming year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, we can't go back on that.
I know they talked
This year.
that they're holding our contribution from last year in their operational fund, but I would rather see them operational before we boost their operational fund. That's just,
And we're also, we've also made the decision to contribute our opioid settlement money
money.
to them, which I think came out to something like $800 a year or something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, it wasn't, and I
It's
haven't,
very small.
what's that?
It's a very small amount.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to track that down yet to see if they're actually getting it or where it's going. I thought it was going to the region and then the region would be, but I don't know who the region is. I haven't quite been able to figure that out yet.
Would
so.
that be Mason from Garco? He might be the best contact to get that.
Good point, yeah, that's good, yeah.
Because I know he's been tracking a lot of the dollars and cents for that project.
Yep. He's with Public Health, right?
Yes.
And for the CRVE, Tricia's DP, for that one, did we actually come up with a consensus for the amount?
No,
I thought that was still up for discussion.
I believe it's still up for discussion.
I think what we talked about that day was that we were thinking that we were interested and there are a lot of different parts being pulled together, but we were hesitant about the full amount that was asked.
Can I go back to the withdrawal management just to close that out? Sorry to interrupt.
Sure, no
Andrea.
problem. I thought
just
we were
want
finished.
to make sure we reach a consensus here. I'm in total alignment. I know there were some delays. I've been participating in the governance council. I've missed some meetings, but trying to keep track of the emails and such. Supply chain, blah, blah, blah. All of the things we all know are going on in the region have been happening. I have a high level of confidence that they will be opening in 2024. A lot of other people in the room, so to speak, are also withholding their enthusiasm, if not their dollars, until that does occur. So I don't think we'll be the only ones doing it, and I think it's appropriate to do.
I think,
It's a small contribution to them, but it's still a contribution from us, and given our other financial matters, it makes sense to be vigilant. But that's just my
Yeah.
opinion. But again, I wanted to give everyone a chance. We could close that one out and then move on.
I thought we had, I agreed that, yes.
Apologize.
Yeah.
okay. So I think we should put it in there as a line item, because I do have a feeling in the future it's gonna be a continued request every year. But I do think, yeah, as soon as.
So add a line item with $2,000, but a note to not pay it until, we'll come back to you before we spend it. How's that?
That sounds good to
Or
me.
we'll ask them to present to you or
Yeah,
send you a memo or
a memo,
something.
when they cut the ribbon and we'll,
That's right,
Yeah.
there you go.
There you go.
You're going to be invited.
sure.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they'll be operational sometime in '24 as well.
I hope they make it. Just,
4 years old.
yeah, every year it gets dragged out a little more, so,
It's a big project.
yeah. So then on the CRV EDP, we had kind of talked at the last meeting about potentially moving. Last year, we did 3,000 for the chamber. We had talked about taking that away from the chamber and putting it in this one.
Thought we did 0 for the chamber.
This year, we have 0 in there,
Well, for last year,
for last year,
we
yeah.
were not chamber members in
Members last- yeah.
2023.
We budgeted 3.
We
but
budgeted 3.
We had,
We
yeah, 0.
repurposed that, though, for the Discover Silt
Correct.
Yeah.
initiatives with the
Initiative.
website and marketing and
Yeah.
working with Align.
Yep.
My concern about either the chamber or CRV EDP is the lack of details. It's hard to pay for something when you don't know what you're getting. I'd like to hear more from both of them on what are they going to do next year. I understand that they all have a vision, but I'd like to hear more about outcomes.
Yeah, I think that'll be the discussion with the chamber next week,
Yes.
or next
Yeah.
meeting, not next week. Yeah.
Gonna say, you double booking us? Come on now.
Yeah.
I'm in California next week, so you guys can have a meeting.
Yeah, I don't know. At first glance, 10 grand seems a bit much for.
It is, and like she
CRV,
said, ask for
EDP.
you start a negotiation at some point, so that was her.
Yeah, well, yeah,
started
exactly.
Always
negotiation
go
point.
down.
So you can always go down, yeah.
So they will.
But it sounds like we are almost putting money for the idea and the creation.
Yeah.
And I know they were saying we have to start somewhere. Were they saying that they were planning to work with the chamber as well? Are there any connections there at all?
I think their plan is to work with the chambers sort of regionally, but to act as a more strategic level than the chambers, which are operational, helping businesses today, tomorrow, next week. The CRV strategy, as I understand it, is to be a more strategic advisor to communities and to their chambers about larger things. What was it we met with when Evan presented at Silt Town Center last year? Was something related to the airport.
The airport.
The free fall and flight.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was going to
yes.
be firefighter training.
It was both, and
uh,
military.
Possibility
I
for
mean, it was-
military,
it-
stuff
you know,
like that.
It was sort of an exciting possibility, but it was, like a 5% possibility.
Yeah.
It was tough to
There-
get done.
Their idea is to attract industries and to create a greater general awareness of the region, in Garfield County in general, and the Crystal River Valley, and then defer to the chambers to operationalize it.
Colorado River Valley.
Yes,
Not
thank
on
you.
the Crystal.
Yeah.
PTSD.
I think the idea to go just a little bit further is it's operating under the umbrella of RREDC at this point because of the 501c3 status, but eventually they'd spin out and have their own, probably their own. But I kind of look at it as Rifle Regional Economic Development Council did a lot for Rifle and didn't do much for the rest of the region. And the founding documents, so to speak, for this organization are a rising tide for the Colorado River Valley floats all boats. And if you bring a business in that keeps people home to work instead of driving all over hither and yon, then it's a win. And if they're good paying jobs, then that's kind of the pie in the sky, but it's not to say it can't get done, and this is what this is about.
And I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Hanrahan because I would like to see more concrete plans in ways that they would be saying that they are going to achieve what they're proposing. Whether it is with their, their specific priorities or what channels they will be attaching right now. Again, I still feel we would be donating to an idea, an ideal. So I'm not opposed to donating something. I definitely am opposed about donating as much as $10,000.
Yeah. And maybe it'll evolve that way, but I don't see why the chamber doesn't kind of, get in bed with these people, so to speak, kind of combine forces there.
I think you'll hear from Larry in 2 weeks' time that
Yeah.
their vision has changed from events and, those kinds of projects to more of a grassroots, working with individual businesses, I think, and
Yeah.
helping existing businesses grow and exist, continue to, survive. Whereas CRV EDP is outward focused, trying to bring in those businesses that seem so elusive.
This one's kind of, I mean, I would like to just put a number in there. This isn't a guarantee that they're getting it. We're just budgeting a number. Because we may hear great things from the chamber here in 2 weeks, then we want to give them something too. I do think with CRV EDP, which let's just call them CRV for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah.
Kind of like with the detox center, I'd like to maybe split that one up, give them something at the beginning of the year, and then see if they're doing anything, and then decide to give them, if they're doing something by July, then we give them the other half of whatever we budgeted, instead of all of it up front and then see nothing until next year.
And full disclosure, I've been asked to participate in some of their earlier processes as they're devising a strategy. So I'm happy to report back on outcomes.
Yeah.
And
I think that's where
let y'all know that we're
Trustee
either
Post is
getting
at.
things
This
done or we're
first,
not.
this first year or two could be all about development, and we won't see any results. So we have to decide: are we investing for results in 2 years, or do we want to trickle them a little bit and then see if a plan's even starting to come together?
So do we think like a 50-50 split from whatever the total number
Total
is?
number is.
Yeah.
That's where I'd be. I just don't know what the total number is.
And yeah, I mean, I kind of feel I wouldn't necessarily want to give them, like you said, I mean, the chamber might have, something that we want to give some money toward, but I don't necessarily want to see C or V get $10,000 and the chamber get none, I mean, if, I'd rather see, like
Closer to
C or V
home.
get 7 and the chamber get 3, if that's what we decide to do, just, but, or whatever amount we decide.
I have tr-
Doesn't the chamber have a set membership amount? It's not how they function? Or donations?
Membership for municipalities or
Mm-hmm.
for businesses?
Municipalities.
Wasn't our annual 6,000? Or was it less?
There's three,
3?
two or three, yeah.
I guess my own concern with continuing to support the chamber, and I know Larry and I like him, and it reflects in no negative way on him, is that it's the equivalent of throwing good money after bad.
Right.
We've been giving them money for over 5 years, and to the best of my knowledge, we've gotten darn near nothing for it. I don't know any local businesses that have said, boy, the chamber really helped me out. That's what chambers are supposed to do. Like,
Right.
that's their core mission. And this chamber has been unable to fulfill that obligation for half a decade. I don't know what Larry's coming to the table with, but I don't know that he has the means to get it done at this point. He's been on the board for a number of years, during which they've done nothing. I'm tired of paying for nothing. Just speaking for myself.
No, you're
I'd-
right.
I'd rather try a new boat.
Well, we have the chamber separated out on a zero budget amount as of right now. And we do have someone presenting for us next week. So I don't know if it's effective for us to be going back to the chamber. But I understand as it relates to CRV, it sounds like those two are correlating in what they could potentially provide to us. What kind of direction do you need from us on this today? I agree with Mayor Keefe, that we could say something, date something for the future, and then more as we start seeing results, if we need to give any type of direction for right now.
That's a good question. 10,000 is just what they asked for.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you can call it 10 or 3 or 50 today. I mean, it doesn't really
It's just
matter
put aside.
today. We just, in fact, we can leave it the same, and you can have this same conversation after you hear from the chamber
Yeah.
next time. And you can make those decisions then.
Yeah, I guess what is our determination of you know, if we do the fifth, you know, half and half, what is our determination of, hey, they're making progress, this is a viable thing, we give them the rest, what do we,
Measuring from.
yeah,
I don't think you can make it a definitive line. It's just if in July we have another meeting with them and they come in and we're still working on the same thing we were in
Uh-huh.
January.
well, that makes sense. I just, you know, because you said, you know, it may take them a year just to get off the
Yeah,
ground,
I
you
mean-
know, does that,
My expectation is to see progress. So if they've done
Yeah.
nothing in the first 6 months, then it's the chamber. What are they gonna do in the next 6 months?
I'd be fine with just penciling in $3,000 to the chamber, 3 to the CRV, and then next meeting, when chamber comes, figure out, you know,
Whether they get it or
whether they
don't
get it or not. I mean, just for sake of the budget.
for the budget.
In which case, their 3 would be the second half,
50, yeah,
the second
50%.
50%. I like that model.
But it's just an idea.
Yep.
And I do want to make sure that the CRV has what I call milestones during the year, certain points at which we can
Measure
provide
something.
outcomes statistically, if not like a new something or other, X, Y, Z, to at least show progress.
Fair enough.
so you were thinking 3 to CRV right now and then another 3 later, is that the,
No, just
am I not
depending
following
on what
right?
happens with chamber. If the chamber comes and we're satisfied with their telling us, they get 3, the CRV gets 3. But then if we decide not to give chamber any, then the 3 goes to the second half of the year.
oh, okay, okay, I see what you're saying, then there's the 6 that you were talking about, okay. I see where you're coming from.
So my other idea may be so that we're basically, at that point, if we're dividing that up and giving them each 3, we're taking $4,000 out of the budget for contributions. Is everyone, what do they think about just taking that $4,000 and putting into general contributions? And if something else comes up, we have that budget. So our budget, our 30,400 is gonna
It's
stay
still
the
the
same.
same.
It's just where that money's
Good
allocated.
idea, yeah.
I like that. That's a great idea.
Mhm.
Gives us the flexibility to have a good idea outside of budget season.
Outside of budget season, someone comes in and, you know,
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
Does that work, Amy?
I mean,
So you're wanting me to do 3 to the economic, 3 to chambers, and 4 into the general, and move that up to 6,500?
yes.
Okay.
The good thing is it's just numbers on a piece of paper so they can get moved around.
that's true, yeah, then they can get moved around, you're right.
Amy hadn't written any checks yet.
No
so
one's
we're-
carved anything in stone, right?
Yeah.
I should say Lori hasn't written any checks today.
I mean, I'd almost be willing to give C or V 4, or,
I think that's the thing, if we give them 3 and they come back and they have a plan in July and they're doing something with it, then.
yeah,
you
Then you can
pour
pull
that
it out
time.
of
You can
what
pull it out
we-
of that extra that we.
okay,
we
all right,
set
yeah,
aside.
all right. I like that.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
Okay, town administrator. I have one of those items in the budget, and one of those line items, and those expenditures are going up by 4%, which is salary, benefits, and insurance. And I wanted to just share, one of the things I do is to publish that newsletter, and I always, when I go in to hit send, there's a little thing in there that tells me how many people I'm sending it to, which I know is not the total measurement, Derek, but
Totally
it goes up every single week. So it's kind of fun to see that. I do know that we need more metrics on it, because I am a little disappointed about how many people actually open it and spend time on their eyeballs. So we do need to make some improvements on it. But, you know, we had we were doing just about 300 a couple of years, 3 years ago when we switched to this new platform. So I'm really pleased with the way that's going. And people keep signing up for it because it's a self-select thing. And I realized, maybe half of those numbers have moved away and just still get it. I don't know. But it's fun to see that go up. I thought I'd share that. Amy, you want to talk about the town treasurer item?
Sure. So our operating expenditures are $143,750, which is up by about 9% over last year's expenditures. And most of that is payroll, taxes, and retirement contributions. Plus Lori is in there with me. So the Treasurer Department takes care of all things finance. So accounts payable, receivables, payroll, tax administration. I can read the list or just save time. Lori does accounts payable and she does our monthly disbursement report. And then she's my backup for payroll if needed. Marcella is accounts receivable and utility bill. And so then the general administration, its increase is about 5% over last year's. And those main differences are our transfer to irrigation, our transfer to the water fund. All of those transfers are for what the town uses for those resources. And then our marketing budget went up and our fireworks went up. Excuse me, sorry. The general administration takes care of office supplies, operating supplies, trainings, registrations, our employee appreciation, which is higher in 2024 than it was in 2023 as well. It takes care of our IT support, just all things to run town hall, really. And then our town attorney is pretty flat from last year to next, or from this year to next year. It's still the same budget at $60,000. Do you want me to hit this, Jeff, or do you?
Yeah, I was just going to make one more comment on the attorneys. You'll note that second bullet that a lot of, or some of what the attorney's office does is recoverable through our development agreements. If they do some work on certain things, they get paid by the developer or the landowner on those. And I don't know.
Well, we are a pass-through for it. It just gets put under an accounts receivable line item instead of an expense line item.
Yes, you can pick up the next one because these are all the people that make it work.
So these are our positions. We have 28 full-time positions, 2 part-time positions, 4 contract, and 2 seasonal. I can read through them if you'd like, but these are the positions that make the town run smoothly. Would you like me to run through them?
The positions that we've spent a lot of time talking about, maybe I just highlight them, is the building inspector and plans reviewer. We've kind of struck out again. We thought we had somebody in the wings that we were going to be able to bring on as a staff member instead of the contract, but that didn't work out. It actually says pending here, but it's no longer pending. Just learned that last week. And then code enforcement, we do have the code enforcement officer on, and it shows here under planning, I'm not sure why we did that, but he'll be housed under the police department, and he's just in training right now. So it's as you can imagine, there's a lot of training that goes into that position. And we're really excited to have Lori here as our deputy town clerk treasurer to provide some backup for both Sheila and Amy. And you get to hear from her later on. You'll find her very competent. So. Any questions about any of that? Okay.
Am I taking this slide or are you, Jeff?
Sure, why don't you kick it off and I'll butt in when I need to.
Okay, so these, we're trying to give you a look back at the last 3 years, besides next year, of course, that give you an idea of what our payroll and benefits to our employees have gone from since we've put the subcommittee into play. So the top line is the wages that we actually budgeted for 4 years. So you see 2021, 22, 23, and 24. And I've listed what our COLA raises were those years and what our merit raises were, and the 401 contribution rate, how it has gone up from 5 to 6 to 7%. And then I've done the math to show you what that 5% or 6%, whatever percentage it is, so that you can see that that is another cost on top of course, the wages, and then our Social Security contribution and our Medicare contribution. And then our employee appreciation has gone significantly up since 2021. We're doing more things for our employees. A lot of that is from that subcommittee, and also you as board members wanting to recognize our employees and let them know that they are appreciated, which I can tell you that I notice and I appreciate the difference from 2021 till now. And so these are just the dollar amounts that it actually costs to have an employee, from salary to all the benefits that come with that. Do you have any questions?
Just about the longevity awards, Amy,
Yes.
noticed on the separate sheet that was in our,
You're on the next page.
what?
Yeah, and
No
that's
way.
on the
That
next
is
page.
on the next page.
We can get there, but I can certainly answer that question now.
Yeah, we can jump right into
I had
it.
this,
I'm like,
I probably have the same
go.
question, yeah.
There it is, right there.
Okay.
These were all discussed with the HR subcommittee and recommended by that group. And so these are new for 2024. The last slide are those things that we have had for a long time, and you can see the progression. These things are all new for this year. So
These are all new?
you do have a piece of paper in front of you that discusses that. But
This is all the new.
Amy, go ahead and take
Oh,
that
and this is
on.
the stuff that's,
This just breaks it down.
Yeah, those are the new ones.
okay, gotcha.
So the longevity bonus, our neighbors like Glenwood Springs, Newcastle Rifle, they have where they reward the employees for their longevity. And so the HR subcommittee came up with the milestones. So it's year 1, year 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And each bracket, they get a little more money. So at year 1, it's $250. At year 5, it's $1,000, $2,500, $3,750, $5,000, $7,500, and then $10,000 if you've been here for 30 years. So we're really trying to get Sheila to stay here for 30 years, so she gets that extra little attaboy, even though she wants to retire before then. So in 2024, in next year, the dollar amount is higher than it will be in subsequent years. That is because the HR subcommittee decided that anyone that would have had a 1-year or a 5-year or a 10-year, that they're going to get those. So we're kind of making up for those longevity awards for people that had already hit those milestones. Does that make sense?
Yeah, does it get
Yeah.
paid as a taxable fringe benefit, or how does it
It will go through payroll.
pay just through payroll?
And it'll be taxed, yes.
So you get to 5 years, you get $1,000, right?
Correct.
Okay, because for example, City of Glenwood, 5 through 9 years, you get the same amount every single year.
Every
But
year.
this
Yeah,
is
we're
just
only doing it
one-
every 5
okay,
years.
Okay.
Just a one-time, yeah,
Gotcha,
one
okay.
time every 5 years.
Yeah, we're not as we don't have the tax revenue that Glenwood does.
Oh, I know. I just
Yet.
didn't know how you guys were. If it was, if you got the
Yeah,
$1,000
it'll
between
be
5
on
and 10 or not.
the first year everybody gets something, and then you have to wait until you get each 5 years you'll get one longevity award.
Uh-huh. And then I had, I guess a comment more or less about the on-call compensation, because I'll use Glenwood as an example. You get more on-call pay if you work a holiday, which encourages people to, work holidays. So I don't know if that is a thought, because it's, it looks like $100 a week, and I didn't know if, giving people holiday on-call pay would be beneficial to, people basically volunteering for those things as opposed to shying away from them.
So how does on-call work? Is it just a schedule that you make and it's just, this is your week?
Yep, I just finished the 2024 on call and it rotates every 6 weeks.
Okay.
So we have 6 employees, so whoever starts January, the first week of January, they're on call. And then you go 5 weeks, you're not on call, then you're back
And
on
then you
call
hit
again.
So you don't have to worry about,
No, they know right now if they've got to work a holiday next year, and a lot of times if they're going someplace, they'll find somebody to switch with.
which with it.
So
So they don't get holiday pay?
they get their 8 hours of holiday pay, but they just get the $75 for their weekly on call.
Right.
And if
And
they
if
get
they
called out,
work
they
it,
get,
then they get paid overtime.
yeah, they get paid overtime
Right.
through comp time if they have to come in and work.
So this is just a hold
Okay.
to be the guy that answer the phone? You get that base, yeah.
And I had a quick question on the non-cash benefits. Are those employee contributions that goes towards those, or is just available for the employees to take advantage of if they decide to with associated accounts?
Correct.
They get discounted rates or something like that. Okay. So we don't pay for any life insurance, employer paid life insurance, so we do have that as well.
Yes,
Out of
and
curiosity.
this is supplementary if they wanted to have more. We currently supply $100,000 for each employee. If they want above and beyond that, or for their spouse or children, that's the supplemental life insurance that they can choose to enroll in.
On the existing page, you'll see a notation that says standard, 3/4 of the way down the page. And then in the 2024, you'll see it's included in CEBT, so we will no longer be paying for it through them, through standard. But that's the life insurance, the current life insurance policy. The one listed in the new for 24 page is just supplemental that employees can buy into if they want it.
And it is portable. They are allowed to take that with them if they are no longer employed with the town.
And I can tell just from experience, what happens is if you get it through the employer, it's a discounted rate, sometimes almost 50% less than if you buy on your own. So there's an advantage to get it with your employer, and if you leave, you can take it.
So could you explain the volunteer day?
Can you still just go through them to continue working through them?
Sure.
Sure. Do you want me to give you an idea of what next year's longevity bonus is going to be, or you're okay with the explanation that each year it'll be different depending on people's anniversaries?
That makes sense.
I think I was looking at that.
I think you can jump right down to the wellness.
Okay, so the wellness benefit, the HR subcommittee came up with giving people $50 a month so that they can use that for a ski pass or a gym pass, or a gym membership, or if they want to purchase a bicycle. So at the beginning of the year, employees will have a $600 bank, so to speak, and they will bring in receipts to say, hey, I purchased a bike. And then that will just be added to their payroll as a reimbursement to them, up to $600. But they do have to show that the money was spent to be reimbursed for that. Make sense? Okay. We are adding short-term disability. We have not had short-term disability previously, only long-term disability. So we are adding that, and it will cover the employee up to 180 days. And then after that, it goes to the long-term disability. And that will be through our current healthcare provider, CEBT.
Is that not in some form overlapping with the new state-approved disability payments that are in effect as of 2024?
So the board opted out of that family.
Oh.
So as a municipality, we did not have to partake.
Therefore, the employees are not paying into it, or
we're not paying into it, and neither are the employees. The employees have the option of going, becoming part of that program, and we did agree that we would facilitate their premiums if they wanted to, but none of our employees have signed up for it.
Okay, so instead we are doing short term and we are paying on behalf of the employees internally? How does
Yes.
it? Okay.
It's just an added benefit that the town didn't have before. Because we allow employees to donate to other employees for sick time if something happens. Now we're just kind of covering our bases and giving more benefits to the employee. It's at a 60%, it pays 60% of their wage, the short term.
Good on that one?
Good.
Okay.
Okay. And so the volunteer day is if one of our employees would like to go to the Rifle Animal Shelter and clean kitty litter boxes or wash dogs, or we were hoping that this would get our employees more involved in their community, and that we would give each person 1 day of paid time off if they would like to volunteer for a nonprofit organization. They do have to provide proof that, you know, they were at the dog shelter or the library or wherever they decided to volunteer at. And that the $7,300 is what it would cost if everybody utilized a volunteer day.
That's a good idea.
And then, of course, go ahead.
That's a good idea. I like that.
Perfect. And then, of course, the supplemental life insurance, that's at the employee's cost, and it depends on the coverage that they choose and, of course, their age. And then the Smart Money program is a Dave Ramsey program to help people budget better or have better money management. And so that would be available to all employees if they chose to sign up for that. And then the 529 College Invest is something that the employee can have a deduction taken out of their check and put but it is after tax. But but any gains that you make on that investment are tax-free. And it's transferable. So the employee could have that account, but they could transfer it to their grandchildren. And so it's just a way for the gains really on that investment be tax-free. So it can grow, and then you don't have to pay taxes on the growth because you've already paid taxes on the money that you're investing, if that makes sense. And then we've added uniforms for Public Works, Water, Wastewater, and Admin. Currently, we have a clothing allowance for them to be able to purchase steel toe boots. This is actually, I don't know if you can see the shirt, so it has Town of Silt logos on it. So we ordered those. We had enough money in the budget this year under our uniforms that we got something for everyone that works at the town, that we aren't going to have anything in the budget next year, but it is a new thing, and that we will do that again in 2025.
So you're doing uniforms and the allowance, correct?
So the allowance is strictly for Public Works and Water, Wastewater. Police Department takes care of their uniforms. Admin, we don't really have a need for steel toe shoes or boots. So the clothing allowance is still in place for Public Works and Water, Wastewater so that they can purchase safety shoes.
Oh, okay. Does community development get the uniforms as well?
Yes,
Okay.
I have them part of as admin.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
How about a nice shirt for the board members, so when we're representing the town out in the,
So that would be something that I'm sure we can add to the budget if you guys would like.
I'm just saying, Snowmass does that for their board, and then when they do a picture, a group picture, everyone dresses up, and that's another thing with group pictures, maybe get,
So we did,
is that there?
we did vest one
Mayor's
year.
picture before group picture.
That way it never happens.
Yeah.
How did I know that was gonna come up?
Mission accomplished.
But we did vest one year and the sizes all came in
Wrong.
wrong, even though like my 2XL was about the size of a medium, so nobody ever wore them, so. I mean, I don't
You
know.
had a pretty good supplier though, Trey, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, we probably have some of that left in there if we wanted to do it this year.
We absolutely do.
So we can forward you some information if you'd like to do that. For
Yeah, I
sure.
would.
Would it be something that you'd all want to have the same style shirt to where you're matching and different colors, or
Like Trey's shirt.
I'd wear Trey's shirt.
I would too.
Too big for me.
Well, okay.
Fit three of me in there, come on.
I would wear
Trey,
one
nothing
similar
against
to
your
Trey's
style.
shirt.
Maybe different.
It's not
color.
Andrea's style, Trey. What can I say?
Don't take it personally.
So we're talking.
well, we could get her a female shirt, but maybe the same color if everybody wanted the same color, or if you wanted different colors. I mean, we could give you Trey has a link where you can go to their website and look at all the.
Yeah.
And
you
then
don't
Ink and Thread of Colorado is who's done all the embroidery and screen printing on all the different shirts.
You don't want to do the Christmas card with everyone in the same color matching.
Well, we'll just send you a shopping catalog.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't mind the
last-
vest. I wore my vest last Tuesday for the for the lighting.
We'll probably have a groundbreaking photo coming up soon,
Hopefully,
hopefully.
just around the corner.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Or
as long
ice-
as
ice
CDPHE
chip- is it an
gets
ice
off the,
chipping or
Ice chipping?
ceremony?
Yeah.
Shipping.
Okay.
might be that too.
Yeah.
So the last thing on this slide, Amy,
Is on call for PD. Previously, we've not given them any kind of stipend for being on call. And so we are just choosing to give them the same stipend that we do for water and wastewater and public works. And so it would be $75. This number is, though, that there's two officers. The day shift officer will be on call till 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the night shift will be on call till 1 o'clock in the morning. And then the following day person picks up being on call before they have to be on their shift. So it's actually 2 people a day that we would be giving a stipend to for their shift. Does that make sense? Okay.
And that's per week. It's not $75 per day that you're holding on.
No, yeah, it's per their shift. So they work a 4-day shift, either Wednesday through Saturday or Sunday through Wednesday.
And then again, they're paid if they get called out
You get called out.
Right.
from the first minute. And that was one thing that we were doing with, I think, Public Works and the water plant, right, water, wastewater, was they weren't paid right away. They weren't paid until they had earned their $75 at their current rate of pay. So this, which doesn't really, kind of takes away the whole purpose of a on-call payment. So this pays them, gives them the $75 and then pays them when they get called out,
You get called out.
And that's for all departments that are on call.
Yeah.
except Amy. Sorry, Amy.
Sorry, Amy.
And Jeff
Yeah.
and Sheila. The salaried employees.
That's right. Okay,
And so this is just kind of giving you 2 slides back. It was, our Social Security contribution, our 401k contribution. This just kind of gives you what we budgeted in wages and what it's actually costing us, and for you to be able to see it.
this is the total, yeah.
Yeah.
So in 2021, the wages were 1.5, but it actually cost us 2.1 with all the benefits. And so it's just a quick glance for those 4 years. And you can see the progression of what our wages were in 2021 and how our HR subcommittee and the board have decided to compensate the employees, how much that has increased from 2021.
I think, and it's significant, for sure.
Yes.
But as we looked at this, we wanted to make sure you were on board, well, aware of it. I think it's a reflection on a couple things. One, the economy and, inflation for sure. But in the early years, it's really about your valuing the employees more
And
wanting them to stick around. And so you've done a good job of making that happen, both with cash and non-cash compensation.
And I'm betting 2019, 2020, we don't see a lot of those increases because of what was going on with COVID, or did we keep the
Well,
3% increases?
No,
We
I
kept
think,
them.
yeah, the board was, we could go back and show even more progression, it was
That's not necessary.
probably about 2020, I think, 2019 maybe, Keith?
Yeah.
Well, probably 2020 was probably the first year we saw the wage survey.
The wage survey. Yeah, once the wage survey came out, and we realized how far under
Yes.
Or-
Sorry.
where we should have been, that that we
Apologies.
took steps to get us to where we should be to recruit and retain employees. So
So maybe what we forecast for the upcoming years is more of the 3% and the merit percentages, but not so much on the variation on the additional items that we have added.
the additional benefits should pretty much
Even out. from-
even out until something new hits the world that everyone wants to have. And
And then there's the percentage of
Yeah.
retirement benefits and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, the merit raise was I mean, you guys evaluated that, right? It wasn't just automatic, everybody got, okay.
Correct.
So then, that's the people who do the work. This is the work, this last slide, and you'll see it again tonight. And I'm not gonna belabor it, but you'll recall that we did these strategic planning sessions with Dana Levak and with us, just all of us. And we've kind of worked through these. These are what we're moving towards. And I'm gonna have more, actually on December 11th, I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail on where we are with all of these programs and details. So that's it for that, unless anybody's got any more questions.
I'm good there.
We can talk about, go ahead, Andrea. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Andre.
The additional police officers, are they
No,
a different budget because it's a different fund?
well, they would come out of the general fund, but they're
Okay.
not
They're not
included in
in
this
this,
budget.
okay.
Okay, in this session. Okay, it was salary related, just made me
Sure,
think of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
'Cause, yeah, I'd still like to have a discussion on that, because I don't think we ever officially said yay or nay.
You did not,
Yeah,
so
so
we can certainly
Okay.
have that.
down to it then later, okay?
We'll consider having that at the December 11th. I think we have about an
Okay.
hour to talk budget stuff in the work session, so.
All right.
Maybe we'll allocate some time, or we will allocate some time to talk about that. So, briefly, you guys want to talk about fees real quick?
Can
Jeff,
we
Sure.
do
Can-
flock since we
do
only,
you want to have, excuse me, we have the flock representative on the line as well. Did you want to touch on that real quick while we have him?
Let's do flock
do
first.
flock, yeah.
I do have questions on the budget. When's a good time to ask those? On some line items.
Let's see where flock goes,
All right.
and we'll make some
Fine.
time.
We'll make some,
That's what I'm asking, because it went over last meeting.
Could happen again.
That's why I figured I'd ask now. I mean, ask when the good time was anyway.
we could probably squeeze something in at the end of the meeting
I was just gonna, yeah.
for some questions.
Well, we might be able to do it even during the budget
Or during the
presentation.
budget
Because we have
presentation.
30 minutes associated with that, and it's not gonna take. that
Oh,
long.
okay. All right. I'll do it
I'm
then. All
doing
right.
a very quick 30,000-foot view.
Okay. All right.
Good evening. So I just wanted to pick up on the flock system from the last meeting. I know everybody had questions on it. We have Hector, who's a representative with flock on Zoom with us, and he can help answer those questions.
Just fire away. Okay.
There's no presentation this time.
Well,
We're
I've
just
got
going straight to Q&A.
I went through the presentation last time. Basically, it's a system that's in use by Glenwood Springs Police Department. The sheriff's office is going on board with it for next year. They're going to install about 5 cameras countywide. They're wanting to install 2 of those cameras in Silt just because of its geographical location in the county. It's a central hub. People drive through Silt just because of where it's located. So they identified Silt as a good location to have 2 of those county cameras. We currently have access to the Flock dashboard, which is free right now. However, starting next year, Flock's charging for access. In order to have access to the system, the costs are equivalent to us, the town of Silt, installing 5 of our own cameras in town. If we choose not to do that, then we'll end up losing access to the Flock system. And what the Flock system is, it helps to solve crime. It's a license plate reader camera that's installed in different areas of town. If a vehicle is reported stolen, it gets entered into NCIC, National Database. The camera will then read that license plate, and then alert an officer that, hey, there's a stolen vehicle over here. So there's that part of it. Amber alerts, missing people, silver alerts, those get entered into NCIC as well. And then with license plate reader cameras, we'll then alert officers to those individuals. So it's having the cameras in place. It serves two purposes. One, it's a deterrent to criminals that want to commit crime. And then on the back end, it allows officers to solve crime that does happen.
Okay. I know Mayor Pro Tem had some questions.
Am I the only one?
Well, I've got
No, I have
I've
a
got
couple
one more,
questions,
yeah.
but go ahead. I'm looking for.
My only question so far is, since these are infrastructure free, they're going to be I assume they mount on a post. They're cellular driven, and with our poor cell service in this geographical area, are we going to have issues where we have 50% of the time they work, 50% of the time they don't?
So I can chime in a little bit. And good evening, Hector Soliman Valdez. I'm the Director of Community Engagement with Flock Safety. Our cameras, as you mentioned, are infrastructure free. We work with FirstNet, AT&T, and T-Mobile. What our technicians will do is that they will determine on a location by location basis which provider has the best service in that area, and then use that provider. So, there's many times that in towns such as yours, where we will have all three providers being used at different locations for the reason that you stated.
And so our cell service is bad. I have AT&T. It'll work one day, the next day it doesn't. So, or like I said, are we gonna have issues where we're not catching everything we potentially could?
So we will assess each location, and FirstNet works at a higher frequency. It's the one used by first responders. It's only available for police technology. And so in your situation, I can imagine that we will probably over-index on FirstNet. Our goal is to have your cameras up and running at all times. We do provide your police department with a health score, and they can go in and see if their cameras are in fact phoning in. We'll work with your department when we're placing the cameras. So I'm assuming we have a initial deployment map. If for whatever reason there's absolutely no cell service or very poor cell service, that is something that we'll communicate with the police department. And then maybe potentially sometimes if you move a block over, across the street, etc., there may be better cell service. So that's something that our technicians are able to kind of work through at the site. We definitely are in many smaller communities, mountain communities throughout the country, very remote with low cellular network, and again, attempt to provide the best service possible.
Okay.
And I had a question because you said you were going to put two.
The
Because-
sheriff's office wants to put 2 in Silt. And then if we.
Okay, so the sheriff's department will do two.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, so we would
okay.
have a total of 7.
All right,
And
so 7.
the locations we identified, basically the 5 cameras for Silt would be covering Silt. The 2 locations that the sheriff's office would put their cameras would be capturing traffic going east and west out of Silt.
And,
Okay.
We would
okay.
capture traffic coming in, they would capture traffic going out.
what's the cost for 5 cameras?
It's $16,150 for the first year, and that covers the installation costs. And then the recurring costs every year is $15,000. So it's right at $3,000 per camera.
And what's the life expectancy of these cameras?
So we run a software as a service type model. So that $3,000, the first year there's an installation fee, but the $3,000 covers all of the maintenance. If there's an issue with the camera, having it replaced. And so that's one of the big benefits of Flock versus traditional vendors. Used to purchase a camera, it would go obsolete within a couple years. With us, we'll always be replacing the cameras for you.
So, after, say hypothetically, you put the 5 cameras in, and there's really no new crimes being solved or we find that the data is not proven useful, is there a way out of?
Yeah, so our contracts are 2 years. First year with installation and 2 years. After the first year, you can potentially terminate the contract. I would obviously lean on your legal team to go through that with ours. But you're not on the hook for any equipment that's installed. We would go in and take it down for you.
So it's 2-year minimum, so 31 grand to have this?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
And then you said we get access for 1 year from the Glenwood cameras?
Yeah, so we currently have access to the Glenwood Flock cameras. It will allow us to continue having access to the Glenwood cameras, which we've actually picked up stolen vehicles from their cameras. And in addition, we will have access to the sheriff's office camera system that they install this coming year. And then likewise, they will have access to our cameras.
So the map you had last couple weeks ago, these 5 that are on this presentation, are those the ones but I mean, I know you'd have 2 from the county.
Yep, so if you look at the map on the east and west end of town on Highway 6, Main Street, our cameras, the Silt cameras, would be facing into Silt. Their cameras would be mounted at the same location, but facing out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
So they're going to capture the traffic that's going out into their jurisdiction. We're capturing the traffic coming into ours.
Okay, I guess, that was my question. Where are the other 2 cameras located at? All right.
What's the failure rate?
Do you mean on the equipment?
No, how often are the images wrong?
So we measure every image with a probability score. So let's say there is a hot list alert, it's provided to your department. If it dips below 90%, there will be a caution triangle, letting them know that there is a low confidence read. Every image or every kind of scenario is different, whether it's daytime or nighttime. It's really important to kind of provide them that specific image or score to that image. Your department's policy is going to state that they must, verify the alert and verify the hit, right? So there's a combination of the machine learning providing kind of that insight, and then obviously the policy and then the officers on the ground.
Okay, so a confidence rate of 90 or above. So in practical terms, that means up to 10 pictures out of every 100 could be wrong. And how many are we taking a day?
So it wouldn't necessarily be that up to 10 are wrong. It's just saying that it has a low confidence and it's asking the person to verify, right? Or take a double look.
Have a greater than 50% likelihood of being incorrect.
So not necessarily, right? So every image is rated differently. And so it's looking at every image individually and saying, there is this image, if it dips below a 90% accuracy, it's saying take extra caution and look at it even more closely. But again, the important part, and as the officer can mention who's used the system, is that verification, because there's a 2-step process, right? The system provides the proactive alerts, which is what you're seeing on your screen, right? There's a breakdown. There's proactive alerts. Those are custom hot lists. Those are hot lists based on, is this a felony vehicle, stolen vehicle, etc. Your police department still have to call in to make sure that that license plate is still on the wanted list, make sure that the numbers that they're seeing match no matter what, even if it's at 100%, right? Then there's the investigative portion. They still get that probability score for those images, but those are images that a detective is looking at in a screen at a desktop potentially if there's an investigation. And they're probably looking at multiple images, trying to find a vehicle that matches the description. But we want to make sure to provide any probability score if for example, it's blurry, the lighting is off. But again, it's the metadata that we're capturing on that vehicle.
So the failure rate is somewhere between greater than 0 and 10%.
The failure rate would be the officer. That would be the end point, because this doesn't eliminate his responsibility, his or her responsibility to make sure.
In theory.
Well, you can only, you can train a lot, and our officers are not going to be.
Are these cameras running all the time? Or are they incident-driven? In other words, could local law enforcement or Garfield County sheriffs turn them on or off at their discretion, or are they constantly running?
So they take images of all of the back of vehicles that are passing by it. And so that, as you see in the screen, right, there's the two aspects. The first aspect is if it's a wanted vehicle, it'll alert your police department within 20 seconds. Hey, there's a potentially wanted vehicle. Take a look at this, run it through your other systems, and their investigation commences and according to policy. It's investigated, right, because you don't know when there is a crime reported, which footage you're going to need, what the description is going to be. It's going to match. It's going to basically tag each vehicle with the vehicle associated, the information associated with the vehicle. There is limited retention in order to kind of find that sweet spot between providing law enforcement with a tool that's helpful to solve crime, but still protecting privacy, right? So what we've seen, there's no national standard on this. What we at Flock suggest is 30 days. That's enough if, let's say, somebody's out of town, they don't report something, or for whatever reason, there's no clue associated to a vehicle for a couple weeks. Your department can still assign a detective. They can go in and investigate and find the evidence. But at that 30-day mark, all of the footage is completely deleted. It's no longer retrievable, right? And so it's a 30-day rolling basis. So it has what's called a time to live stamp. At that 30-day mark, it's deleted from the cloud and not retrievable.
Has any third party validated data deletion?
There, we can share our SOC 2 compliant compliance as well as our how we safeguard privacy or our data with your IT department if that's something that's desired. The way that our contract is written is stating that the footage is explicitly owned by the town of Silt. We do not share or have any access to that footage. It is for your department to use, and only they can share it within the system with other law enforcement agencies. Every single search, there is a reason that has to be entered in according to their policy, and then there's an audit that's also going to be delineated in their policy that's performed as well, and the system provides all those tools for that, for the department to be able to do that.
Okay. And just to be clear, SOX 2 compliance does not include data deletion.
So SOC 2 compliance is the way that we safeguard, or treat data, right? And how we train our employees, how we safeguard the way that we access, any data. As far as the data deletion, that is something that, through your contract is delineated there. We can definitely work with your IT department so that they can look at the processes that we take, including, as I mentioned, the fact that there's a time to live stamp on each piece of data. But it's also really important to mention the type of data that's being collected. It's the back of vehicles. There's no DMV records within Flock Safety or third-party databases, right? So that's also very important when it comes to safeguarding privacy, because our system is really capturing just that back of the vehicle. Your department still has to search other existing databases and resources that they already have access to verify, well, who is the potential driver in that vehicle.
I found a quote that I'd like to share with you, Hector, and other folks in attendance here. It's from the ACLU, who's been fighting Flock, I think it's in 28 or 30 states now, different municipalities within those states. And they say that they are opposed to Flock due to, quote, the severe privacy implications, the potential for infringement on First Amendment rights, the lack of transparency surrounding the capabilities of the technology, in the absence of meaningful legal safeguards to hold flock safety and municipal law enforcement departments accountable in making use of the surveillance technology. I'd like
So-
to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so the ACLU has several recommendations, including limited retention, including having public meetings such as this. That's something that we encourage. That's actually what my team is responsible for. And then including having a transparency portal or some way in which the community can have oversight. We're the only vendor in this industry that has a transparency portal that's completely free for your department to use. In there, it'll show who they're sharing with, what their policy is, and other information that they'd like to share on the program. But we generally agree with them. We believe that solving crime is important. We want to provide a tool that's useful for police departments. As you see on the screen, there's many agencies in the state of Colorado using Flock right now. And we do so by creating the technology in a way that, again, agreeing with the ACLU, has limited retention. There is no national standard on this, and we're really trying to take the lead here. There's many department or states that require longer retention than this. And so we see this as the sweet spot of protecting privacy while providing police with a tool that is helpful to solve crime.
So it'll take a picture of a vehicle going by, but it won't take a picture of like a kid walking by.
Correct. So there's no filters for people. There's no facial recognition. It's taking pictures. The cameras are aimed at the middle of the road. So it's taking pictures of vehicles and it's cataloging the metadata associated with that vehicle. And what I mean by that is the license plate, just the alphanumerical digits, as well as is it a Ford? Is it red? Does it have a roof rack? And that can then be used in case of there's an investigation and somebody reports, a specific vehicle that may match that description.
Okay.
Are you familiar, or I'm guessing you are, Hector, with the third-party doctrine?
I'm not 100% happy to, if you give me more information going
And
into
I'm not a lawyer, full disclosure, so I'm sure Attorney Sawyer can correct me on this at some point in the future. It's a legal doctrine. I have some notes here that holds the people who voluntarily give information to third parties having no reasonable expectation of privacy for that information. That lack of privacy protection allows the obtaining of information from third parties with no legal warrant, without any Fourth Amendment protections, without search and seizure, probable cause, or judicial oversight. What control measures are we going to have as citizens if these cameras are in place?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point or a question. There's a part of it, just as you mentioned, that your city attorney can guide you in. What I can say is our contract states that the police department is the owner of this data, and we don't have access to that data. We do not sell or share that information, right? So that's one portion that's really important. The other portion that's important is that limited retention, making sure that there's not long-term retention of data. The other part, which I've been mentioning, is the policy, what the uses of the data, what the potential uses of the footage is for. So that's another portion. And then there's factors like the transparency portal, right? Using the transparency portal to provide the community with some insight. I'm not sure if the person controlling the screen, if you just Google, for example, Flock Safety, Morgan Hill Transparency Portal, that'll show you a live version of that, right? That's updated every day. So that's one way that we encourage police departments to have transparency. And I definitely don't want to speak for the police department, but many times what we also encourage police departments to do is provide quarterly updates, right? This is what we use the technology for. This is the success that we've seen. And then incorporate that into the conversation that they're having with you as elected officials and policymakers, and potentially with the community as well, right? So there really is that conversation that is needed between the department and the community. We're always happy to facilitate that as well. But those are, I would say, kind of all pieces that help safeguard that. I think obviously there's a legal aspect that I can't opine on, as I'm not an attorney either, and I'm also not your attorney. But with your legal team, that's something that you may want to look at and just make sure that, with the contract and all of that validates what I've mentioned.
And any municipality that's a subscriber, because you indicated earlier it's a SaaS model, they have access to other municipalities' license plate data as well, right? It's a giant pool
No.
of data, or no?
No. So your department has the ability to share their data with other law enforcement agencies, right? I think they mentioned that they've been solving some crime regionally using the system and cameras in your area, right? So crime obviously doesn't necessarily stop at municipal borders, so that's really important. However, your department and the policy, and this is something that we see many times, can delineate, hey, we only share within the state of Colorado or regionally, et cetera. Your department has full control of who they share your data with, and then in return, who they're receiving data from. Also, every search that both your department, just like your department does, has to have a search reason, a reason entered, and so does the other department. So there's the ability to audit any searches, from the town next over, for example.
But not a warrant.
And what do you mean by a warrant? Sorry.
Search warrant?
So the data, this would be, and again, your city attorney is there, so definitely don't want to give you legal advice. This is similar to your body cams that are already being used. Your department owns this information. This request would go, this data is owned by your department. It would go to your department, and then you would be able to, provide that information according to the law. But you would have that due process as a city.
I guess a drone, I'd be more afraid of a drone violating my rights than these, to be honest.
What stops you guys from doing facial recognition? It's just software, right?
We don't do facial recognition. That's not something that we intend to do. That's not something that's included in this discussion item. For example, these cameras don't have the ability to do that. If in the contract, if we were to make any changes or additions such as that, we have to notify your department beforehand. That would be obviously something in addition to what we were discussing today, right? So that is not something that is included in what you're seeking to purchase.
But it's technically feasible.
So facial recognition exists out there. That's not something that Flock intends to integrate into our system. It's one of the same reasons we also don't have personally identifiable information, right? We want to be an objective source for solving crime, and really starting off with that license plate and vehicle as that first piece of information. But there is no facial recognition in our system now. It's not being discussed today, and there's also none in the roadmap at Flock Safety.
And last question, I know I've been asking a lot, and I appreciate your patience, Hector. Are you guys a private company or a public company?
We're privately held and have investors all within the United States or locally based.
So my backup question to that would be specifically on Flock. There's a quote here that Flock Safety appointed James LeCamp as a CFO, developing the financial strategy necessary to bring private company into the public market.
Yes, our intention is to go public and be publicly traded. We are a startup right now, but that is definitely the stated intention of our CEO and of our board.
So at that point, this is just, so a publicly owned company would have to be in the money, they're there to make money, which then instead of a crime solving company, you guys became a data company. Just like Tesla's not a car company, Tesla's a data company. Flock is going to put 1 billion of these cameras in the United States and become a data company.
They already are.
It's not.
You would be able, of course, any changes like that or anything that does not align with your town. Obviously, I can't speak for 5 years, 10 years down the line, but I can definitely say how we safeguard our promises to you today, which is stating, your data, the data is owned by you. We do not monetize any information. We provide, the data is completely owned by the department. And so that is not something that is happening today, or is that has ever even been discussed, right? Hypothetical future, at that point, we would have, as you would have as a consumer, the ability to terminate the contract. And I believe there's a clause in there for any event in order to do so. So again, want to leave those legal questions to your attorney, but definitely want to make sure that that's clear. We don't monetize any data. It's owned by every one of our individual customers.
And I know we're running over.
Yeah, I think we're running over, so I think we need to make this almost an agenda item
Yeah,
at an
I
upcoming
agree.
meeting, because this is way beyond just 5 or 6 or 7 cameras in town, the extent that
Yes.
it goes to. And I would like to hear more from our police department on why you guys would like this too. I think this has probably been a poking hole in the plan discussion that we just had, but there could be wonderful reasons that you would like to speak to us about on why we might want to do this. So I'd like to direct staff to give us a whole agenda item, and I think we could probably go into it for an hour,
Easily, yes.
see what we want to do, so.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate Hector being here with us.
Yes, and thank you, Hector, for being
Lieutenant
patient with
here.
all my questions.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed your questions, and that's my job. And so I'm happy that you're asking those questions. They're very important.
'Cause I will state, I think there's probably a huge benefit that we could see from this also. I just think that citizens' rights are something that are,
Or misuse down the line.
it's a fine line, and we have to see what could potentially happen or what can't happen.
You're right, it's a fine line, yes.
Yeah. But thank you, Hector, again, for joining us.
Thank you.
And,
Yes, thank you, Hector.
Yeah.
First conversation of a couple. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hector.
All right.
Thanks.
And thank you,
Thanks, sir.
Lieutenant
Do you have anything you
Groenbeck.
want to add real quick while we're just wrapping up?
No, I guess we'll do the,
Do a
1
longer
hour.
work session?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah, and happy to go in person too if that's more helpful.
Okay. I mean, a trip to Colorado is never bad, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find an excuse to go. So.
Easy, you wouldn't say that in June. Come on now.
All right. All right.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Officer.
Break real quick.
Yeah, we'll take a
five.
quick one.
I need to use the restroom.